Have I uploaded and made my own Studio Ghibli version of Michael? Yes, I did. You know what I'm saying? You can judge me for that if you wish. I don't have no qualms. If you do, I understand why you would.
Every time you decide to create a Studio Ghibli Michael, what is that in terms of carbon dioxide or water or trees, like, server costs and energy costs and stuff like that? Because we're all out here feeling like it's a limitless system with no cost. The only input is my typing. And then like magic happens. But that's not true, is it?
Yo everyone, welcome back. Brand new Techish in the building. It is me, Michael, paying high off my coffee, and I'm joined with
Abadesi Osinsade. Where's my coffee? Where's my coffee, bro?
It's in the mail.
Okay.
So I think I've got to talk about straight away what I've seen on my Twitter timeline, X timeline. Unfortunately, yes, I still use that product. Everyone is going crazy because I know everyone is going crazy because of this new OpenAI new image model. So they've updated their 4.0 model, and it's now basically got really, really impressive image generating capabilities. Now, we've been saying this for the longest. It's getting to the point where you can't tell. You could always tell. Yeah, I've had that gloss. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? But some of this stuff now, like, it's getting there. It's kind of scary. Like, it's actually scary. And I put some on the notes, and our editor will put some on the screen for everyone to see if you're watching us visually. And then on top of that, people are doing this kind of Studio Ghibli effect. So you're uploading images and saying, like, make it into like a Studio Ghibli, like, style image. And it's able to convert it and make it look exactly like that.
They look good.
They look good. If you look at the image I've shown you here, like,
yeah,
literally you can see almost the reflection of the person on the whiteboard. It's scary. It also does text perfectly now. And then also what people are now able to do, they're able to upload product images. Let's say you've developed a new product, I don't know, a Hustle Crew notebook, for example, right? You can now upload it and say, like, put it in the hands of a model, and it holds still and works perfectly. And the models look uniform across multiple pictures. So it's not like the models look weirdly different each time, or the product looks weirdly different each time. I'm scared for graphic designers. I'm going to be actually honest with you. I know I've been saying this for a minute, but like there's a cohort of people now where it's like that low hanging fruit work that you used to do. I'm not sure what that is in 3 to 4 years time, because this is actually a window into something that I think is going to be much more commonly used, where people are just going to upload their images, get product images, photo shoots in all kinds of scenarios, and you're not going to need a single soul. Whether people and consumers are going to rally against that and say, no, we want the authentic, real people being used, I sincerely doubt that. But yeah, definitely have a play around with it. You do need the premium ChatGPT to use the 4.0 model. So open out your credit card if you want to have a play around with it. But essentially with this one model now,
sponsored by ChatGPT for this chat. Like,
holla at your boy. No, I'm just saying, if you want to. Actually, I'll get one in it. But what I'm saying is, in like, you don't really need like Midjourney and DALL-E and all these things. It's basically now it's like this one model basically. What's your thoughts on this? Like, are you scared, or like, is it just exciting? A window into opportunity here. Like, what do you think?
Well, I've renamed my phone AI Overlord. Because when they take over, I want them to know that I've been on their side from the jump, I'm one of the good ones. You're listening. You're always listening. Spare me. But yeah, I'm just very curious about who wins. Like, who wins by us making every type of task needed in the economy automated, but ultimately facilitated by a platform that is owned by one person or like a minority of people. Like, who wins? Like, in the current economy, I'm talking March 2025, there are a lot of people who are looking for work, whether they're a freelancer, whether they're someone who was laid off, whether they are employed at an agency, but businesses are just spending less. Businesses are facing rising costs, trying to pass this on to consumers who are spending less. The question I have in my mind is, in the long run, like, who wins? Are we just like in a race to the bottom where, because things can be done for cheaper rates than usual historically, creating photography, creating design, creating images, the people who do this as a trade lose out? I don't know. Like, I think there are just a lot of questions that aren't answered. Of course, there's a lot of positives and upsides. The fact that you can storyboard really quickly, and anyone can be a creator, and anyone can be an artist. And if you already are doing these jobs, you can now scale yourself much quicker, or like put more of your time into refinement versus ideation, etc. Like, I get it, but I just fear for, who wins in the long run. And, we have to talk about the copyright. We can't just have this conversation and then not talk about copyright. Like, what are the images being used to train this? Like, does Studio Ghibli give permission for OpenAI to train its model on Spirited Away and all these amazing works of art? And is that fair then? That they can now create something that duplicates and clones this, unique craft and we're just happy to do that. I mean, what do you think about that? You love comic books, you love, you know, anime, manga and stuff like that. Do you think it's fair that they just got used and now they don't get any compensation?
It's absolutely not fair. And I'm genuinely conflicted because I feel like we're going to see an avalanche of people being able to be creative when they never were, in the sense that I know people that have, you know, wanted to make movies and they couldn't do expensive storyboards and they couldn't, you know, pitch what their movie would look like. Now they can instantaneously without having to spend 50,000, 30,000 on some graphics design team to do that for them when they can never afford that. So in many aspects, there's going to be an opening of the door in terms of what people can now create as an individual, basically. So if you're somebody who has an idea and you want to make whole worlds, you want to make a world from your novel, from your play, from your book, you can do that without using anybody. One person can now build universes. But that means that, you know, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people who've applied their trade in these industries are going to lose out on work potentially. It means that people who did the initial creative work, like you described, like Studio Ghibli and Marvel and all these, you know, Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, all these people are going to have their work ripped off. I'm probably not going to get paid. It means that Sam Altman and Microsoft and all these people that own these models are going to enrich themselves. The potential scenario is also that eventually these models become so commoditized that even those folks don't make any money in the long term. So that might be like the win, which is that, listen, we're just going to blow everyone out the water and nobody wins. But they will make a lot of money along the way until we get to that point. So I'm genuinely conflicted. I am enjoying it though. Have I uploaded and made my own Studio Ghibli version of Michael? Yes, I did. You know what I'm saying? You can judge me for that if you wish. I don't have no qualms. If you do, I understand why you would. It's just a brand new world and we don't know what's in store. So something that people have now been genuinely discussing now is that in maybe 5 years, 10 years, you will have your Apple lenses or your Snap lenses and you will have a Studio Ghibli filter on the world and it will be able to run in real time. This is now probably almost in the realm of science fiction, but it's also now kind of in the science possible. It's like, how do we then get people to want to enjoy the real world when they're already addicted to their phones? When I can tell you that now we're going to be able to put a filter on the entire real world and that the actual default world will be so boring in comparison to what you can see that how do we climb off that ledge? Or do we just say, let's just all go? Technology's here. Let's just have some fun. I know I've just gone on a tangent there, but I just couldn't help but go there and think about that. It's like, what do you think?
It's not going to be boring. It's going to be undesirable. Like what's missing from the current conversation around AI is one, the environmental impact, and then two, like the economic impact. Like we know that there's an accelerating gap between the richest and the poorest. In the UK, where we live, there is a cost of living crisis. There are more and more people who are unhoused, who are struggling to feed themselves, struggling to feed their families, struggling to stay in employment. You know, we are incredibly privileged and sheltered from these harsh realities. But you know, it's probably more likely going to be a Ready Player One situation where people are putting on the filters because they don't want to see like the uncollected trash on the side of the streets because the state systems have broken down, or the homeless people, you know, gathering in the alleyways. But I do think we need to talk a little bit more about the environmental impact of AI. Like every time you decide to create a Studio Ghibli, Michael, what is that in terms of carbon dioxide or water or trees, like, you know, server costs and energy costs and stuff like that? Because we're all out here feeling like it's a limitless system with no cost. The only input is my typing. And then like magic happens. But that's not true, is it? Like we know that there are lots and lots of layers between what we type in and what comes out, including environmental factors. And at least when you asked an artist to draw a self-portrait of yourself, you understood materially that someone would go away, put time into this process, refine this process, create this work of art. They would eat, they would sleep, they would draw, they would live. We had a sense of understanding of the processes going into it. And then that made us reasonable with our expectations. We have unreasonable expectations of AI. And I think this is done intentionally, right? Sam Altman doesn't want you to think of the environmental impact of every query you put in. He doesn't want you to think of the electricity that it's using up, the carbon footprint that it's using up, the low paid workers in global south that are like feeding the databases. They don't want you to think about that. They just want you to use it and use it and use it and use it so they can go out and raise more funding and make you reliant on the product. And then 10, 20 years down the line, we're going to have to ration it or put a health warning on it. I have a very vivid memory of a GCSE history lesson, and it was a documentary about plastic. And it was from it was showing clips from like the 60s where people were like, we've discovered this wonderful magical product. We can make tights with it. We can make Tupperware with it. It's the best thing ever. Let's make everything out of plastic. Let's make everything out of plastic. 30 years later, it's like landfills are full of it. The bellies of fish are full of it. Birds are eating it. Our ecosystem is dying because of what we once thought was magical and limitless. And it's going to happen. Like, basically, we never learn. It's happening with AI. Future generations will be annoyed at our Studio Ghibli creations and think how wasteful we were.
So basically, not only am I a thief, I'm destroying the world. I'm joking.
Yes.
The plastic thing is funny because actually, like, yeah, I know, sure, yeah. The plastic thing is hilarious because the now it's like they've looked at like men's balls basically, and like majority of men have like microplastic in their scrotum and stuff like that.
Infertility on the rise.
Yes. So that might be also partly leading to like, yeah, like the fertility crisis that we're seeing, like in terms of, you know, men probably sperm count declining. So yeah, you're right. There's the unintended consequences are crazy. And I actually do want to do more of a deep dive into the kind of environmental factor of AI. It's something that like I hear and I've never actually researched fully into like, what is the correlation between one search and energy? How do... Yeah, I'm not qualified to speak on it, and I want to come back in the next episode and do a deep dive on it because it's one of those things that I hear but I don't know enough about. Yeah, let's do it. So if you ever sent your DNA to a company called 23andMe, now is the time to log into your account and try to delete that data because they are going bankrupt and the data will be sold to the highest bidder. So it's been known for a while that the company's been struggling, like their stock has tanked, sales are down, and essentially, you know, millions of people gave their DNA to a private company which has no real legislation around it in terms of how secure is that data. Are there laws about whether they can sell that data on, etc., etc.? And maybe they might have said, we will never sell your data on, your data is secure, we will never work with law enforcement. But now that data will be sold, whoever owns that data going forward is not beholden to any of that. So were you ever tempted to send your data to do these little cute ancestry tests, or were you just like, nah? Or like, what do we say to people who are in this position now where they're like, do you know what, my shit's in the ether and who knows if you'll get it?
I've always been tempted to do this, but the fear of finding like long lost half siblings or something held me back. I'm not gonna lie.
Abba, we need a check. We need a check now, okay? We need money, okay? Send it to us.
Let's just say Papa was a Rolling Stone, if you know what I mean. But
shout out to Pops.
Like, I feel for people who've done this because I have so many friends and family who've done it. And a big part of 23andMe's branding was like, data is safe. Like, they were like, we're not going to sell it on to, I don't know, drugs manufacturers. We're not going to sell it on to like governments. And now it's like, we going broke and we can't guarantee anything. And that is terrifying, especially given the current government in America. Like, it's going a bit Handmaid's Tale over there, isn't it? You know, so
1000%.
That is quite terrifying. This idea of like, you know, eugenics coming back, claims to national identity, claims to citizenship being drawn along racial lines. That's kind of scary. Like, imagine if like Trump makes himself dictator and then he's like, anyone that's like a hint Jewish, Muslim, Mexican, whatever, gets their passport revoked as of today, Proud Boys style. Yeah. I mean, I'd be scared.
Yeah, I mean, you know, in previous kind of data leaks or data issues, you can always change your password, but you can never change your DNA. And that's the scary thing, where it's like, you know, we've all been involved in platforms where your password's leaked or your information might have leaked or whatever, and you can do things to amend that. But once your DNA is out into the ether, there's nothing you can do about that. Now, the good thing is that they claim that you cannot be identified individually on that by that data, but I don't know how long that can hold up for, because, you know, if you've got postcode, you can re-identify people quite easily based on like other factors. Maybe that's postcode, location, etc., etc. And even, to be honest, like ethically, let's say you are not encroached personally, how do you feel about your DNA being used by Big Pharma to trade drugs? You didn't get permission for that.
Yeah.
You didn't sign up for that. They are now going to make probably billions off your DNA. And, you know, what can you do about that? Like, that's insane. And those are the things that, like, I would find, even on the lowercase end of what could go wrong, a bit troublesome. Like, like what? Pfizer's got man's DNA and they're just, you know, they're building up the next whatever. And I'm just sitting here with no check, like no payment. Give me royalty. I want DNA royalties, please. All right.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, for real. So we'll leave the show notes. There's like certain articles are showing you like how you can go in there and quickly delete it if you want. So, but I think you got till May 14th, which is when the assets could be sold. Be quick, people, ASAP.
Did you ever do any of these genealogy tests?
No, because every time I saw like an Eritrean or Ethiopian or Somali person do it, it would literally come back and say, you are 100% Eritrean or you are 100% Ethiopian. So I was like, what am I going to do with that information, fam? Like, all right, cool. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And also like a lot of these genetic tests, they had to kind of be careful on the fine print to basically say these are kind of like entertainment products. These are not necessarily like completely super duper accurate. Like, yeah, your DNA is a very complicated thing. They can only trace it via like maternal lines and, you know, whatever. So it's not like this is a complete totality of who you are and what you are, right? And then also they are comparing it to the sample data that they have. So if they've tested people in Nigeria, for example, then they might come up and say, okay, yeah, you are clearly Yoruba. But if you are from a population sample where they don't have a lot of people like that they've trained on, then they're gonna give you some bullshit result like, yeah, you're 100% Somali or whatever. Like, it's like, okay, what am I gonna do with that? You're not gonna, there's no granularity here because you don't have the training data. So I never did it, thankfully.
I was more curious from like my Filipino side, because Philippines is so interesting in terms of like the cultural history of it, you know, like it's like thousands of different islands, and like we think that like maybe like the original inhabitants came from like the far east, like around Taiwan via like Madagascar and all these other islands. And then of course there's like the history of colonization, like Spanish came, but Spanish people also brought people from the Spanish colonies like Mexico, Central America. So if I did ever do it, it would be purely just to like unpack more of my mom's side of the family, because that'll be interesting.
You're trying to find out if you're related. I don't know,
Portuguese or some random thing.
No. You're trying to find out if you're related to Jensen from Nvidia. I'm Taiwanese. Come in. Need some Nvidia stock. Jensen, I'm your sister. Yes. Holla at me.
Come on.
I'm joking. Shout out to my Taiwanese people.
Hey everyone, it's Abadesi from Techish. Are you a founder promoting a product or a service? Are you recruiting in your team? Well, guess what? You can now advertise on Techish Podcast with promo slots starting from as little as $500 per episode. Get in touch at techishpod@gmail.com. That's techishpod, all one word, @gmail.com to learn more.
Yeah, so I think one thing, let's talk about a little bit in culture. A lot's gone down. The show Adolescence has blown up on Netflix, and it's done so well that it's outdone traditional BBC like TV rating shows. So like of all the shows in the UK on TV anywhere, this is like number one basically. So I never really knew how streaming compared to like traditional TV, but obviously there are some shows in the UK and in the US that probably still get 20 million, 30 million, whatever many people watching this on broadcast. So on the UK at least, Adolescence is like the top thing, and it's a top show on Netflix globally. And I think it struck a nerve because it's basically played into the fear, I guess, of a lot of parents that when your child closes their door and goes into their online world, you essentially are no longer their parent. You are no longer their guiding light. They are being influenced and trained by algorithms and short form content and random things on YouTube and Andrew Tate and Jordan Peterson, and your child can come out as a completely different person. I know people who have told me that, you know, their son started talking that red pill and they had to kind of try to deprogram them. You know, these are like mothers who are very progressive, are, you know, very conscious of societal impact, feminism, etc., and their child almost came out as a 180 just because of the online content, and they had to yank away their phone. Just to explain, actually, so the show is about a 13-year-old boy who commits a murder. It's not a whodunit. We know that he did it. And it's about the fallout, essentially, the family of the boy and the police, psychologists looking at why this happened, what motivated him, etc. There's been some backlash, people saying like it doesn't really give the perspective of the young girl who's killed in the show, which is understandable. But I think they're looking at a specific problem here, which is that what is making young boys, you know, become little monsters, basically. I mean, you could always say there's always been gender-based violence. Absolutely, there always has been. But there's a new phenomenon now where younger men are the least progressive young batch of young people that have ever been. They are the most conservative. They are the most regressive. They are the most, you know, they hold the most backwards views basically on gender dynamics than we've ever seen before. And obviously the internet and smartphones, and not just smartphones, and short form content like TikTok and YouTube short forms and reels and whatever. Has had a massive impact. So I know you didn't watch the show, but like, was there anything when you saw the dialogue around the show? Like, what did you think? What did it bring up?
I was really like frustrated because I was at the same time watching this petition go up about how Andrew Tate had a podcast all about pimping, like how to traffic women. And it was like live on Spotify. And, you know, this is like around the time of International Women's Day. And I was like, sorry, like in the same news cycle where Andrew Tate is absolved of all of his convictions and you know, feted and celebrated, we're now questioning why young boys are violent against women.
Yeah. Are
we really having this conversation? Come on, like, you know, denial is not just a river in Egypt kind of vibe. It's a bit like, I think we know why boys are doing this because we know about incel culture. We have known about it. People like Laura Bates are writing about it. We see the things that Elon Musk and Donald Trump say about people like Taylor Swift, one of the most celebrated and talented musicians, on public platforms during election cycles. We see how misogyny plays out time and time again from some of the most powerful men in the world. And then we wonder why young men don't respect women. Come on. Like, for me, I was a bit like, are we really that shocked? I mean, in London, this has happened. Like, that girl was stabbed multiple times at a bus stop by a classmate because she didn't want to go on a date with him. Like, we see these stories, like, and I just think sometimes as a woman, it feels a bit like blighting when people are like, oh my God, shock and horror. Boys are violent to girls, men are violent to women. It's like, is no one listening to us? Is no one paying attention to us? We've been saying this. I myself on this podcast said that I don't like going on TikTok because, like, as soon as I post something that's like, oh, look what happened to me as a woman, 500 plus men are like, yeah, you deserved it, or go back to Africa, you monkey, la 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 la. Like, the internet is just this toxic masculinity breeding ground where hate festers, where misogyny festers, where misogynoir festers. Yes, women create little pockets of peace and joy and happiness in it, but we can never fully protect ourselves from the reality of it. I go on websites like 9gag and stuff like that, and I'm just like, is this what people are watching? Honestly, sometimes even just Reddit, I'm like, is this really what people are reading? Is this what's trending? Is this the front page of the internet? The internet is not for women, really, is it?
Yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of losers out there, and they've always existed, but now the internet empowers them to be anonymous and to leave comments and to feel brave and to coalesce.
It's not just losers. Is Elon Musk a loser? Is Donald Trump a loser?
Yeah, they are.
Okay, but they're also
losers about money. It's not about money. Losers
is Joe Rogan a loser?
Is a character. I mean, I wouldn't put him in the same bracket. I wouldn't put him in the exact same bracket as Elon Musk and thing, because these guys are out here doing Nazi salutes and deporting millions of people. Joe Rogan's just a dumb podcaster. But like these people, I hear what you're saying, but I would just want to preface that I don't believe being a loser is about your economic and financial achievements in this world, because they were losers when they were kids probably as well. Like, it's a spirit of being an idiot, of being somebody who's selfish, a malignant, toxic person who doesn't like other people because they feel like deep down maybe other people don't like them. I don't know. I'm not going to pathologize them. Maybe I'm doing too much heavy lifting already in that regard. But I just feel like the internet has allowed the worst of men to coalesce and feel brave to say shit that they would never say in real life. The comments that they can just drop passively by. And then at the same time, they can coalesce and give content to each other and kind of gas each other up and say, yeah, she deserved it, or, this Me Too stuff's gone too far. It's all fake. It's all whatever. It's a witch hunt. Blah blah blah. And yeah, I mean, I completely understand what you're saying.
I also think I just want to say one more thing, and this is inspired by a talk I went to with Laura Bates and Ben Hurst, hosted by Emma Louise Boynton, who does a podcast called Sex Talk. So you might be able to find this talk that I went to. And we were asking, what is happening in society? What's happening in the lives of adolescent boys that makes these figureheads attractive? What makes someone like an Andrew Tate or a Jordan Peterson or a Joe Rogan, like, what makes them attractive to someone who is at this pivotal point in their life where they're transitioning from child to adult and trying to find their identity. And one of the topics that was mentioned was, rites of passage, like cultural rituals and the absence of them. And when we lived, to be honest, in many indigenous cultures till today, like if you go to like the Maasai or like something like that, like you'll see these very well-known celebrated rites of passage where you transition from boyhood to manhood. And we're missing that. Maybe too much, there isn't that journey from this is how you take care of your body. This is how you make sure you're attractive. This is how you make sure you're this, you're that. And the people who are stepping into that are toxic figureheads who are exploiting the vulnerability of boys transitioning into manhood and basically grooming them into violence. It starts with, how to be productive, how to be efficient, how to be effective, how to be strong, how to smell good, how to look good, how to stay focused, and then suddenly it's how to pimp.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's like any demagogue, there's always a hint of truth in the beginning where it's like, okay, yeah, how do you stay in shape? How do you become a productive member of society? There's that meme that a lot of what Jordan Peterson says is like, just tidy your room. Stuff that actually probably is helpful advice if you're a therapist. But then obviously it devolves into, we need Trump. We need to vote for Trump. Women have gone too far. Why are you wearing lipstick in the workplace? I've seen things that, Jordan Peterson said where I'm like, where's this coming from, bruv? Like, it started off with tidying my room. Now you're telling me that, women are at fault for gender-based whatever. Anyways, I agree with you. And the prevailing talk has been about, yo, should we get the show in the schools? And I said to you off mic where I said, this shouldn't be shown in schools. This should be shown to parents because the kids know what's up. It's the parents who are blind to it and who don't understand what's really happening in their child's inner world. And they feel like because their child's at home, their child is safe. And that is not the case. Like my mum never had these challenges. My mum just knew that when I was at home, I was safe psychologically, physically, etc., etc. But now a child can be at home and not be safe psychologically. And by safety, I mean they are being programmed with BS ideas that are going to put others at harm and themselves at harm and not going to help them survive in this real world. You know, I've known 2 people through friends of friends, one that actually I did know, who died by suicide because of essentially incel ideology. And I didn't know at the time. I didn't understand it at the time. This is years ago, but this was like, they were, you know, one of them left a manifesto talking about girls don't like me. You know, they only like black and white guys. I'm Asian. They don't like me. If you're under 5'10", you don't get no love, whatever. And at the time we were like, what the hell was that about? But now I look back on it, this was the incel ideology that is now completely all over the internet and kids are swallowing, right? 13-year-olds are seeing this now, but this was a grown man. So at the time I just put it aside and thought, whatever. So this is what I mean by harmful ideas, where even if a child doesn't grow up to hurt somebody else, they may hurt themselves because they believe in a very zero-sum black pill, they call it, thinking. And just to clarify, when I was saying about losers, I just want to, you know, reiterate, I'm not saying that only anti-women content or anti-women thinking or practices are only perpetuated by losers. It can be perpetuated by anyone, any man in society or any other woman, but any other person in society, mostly men. And it doesn't matter whether you're a winner or a loser. I don't want to clarify that. But what I'm saying is the people who are leaving comments on your TikTok who are just like completely just like enamored with hatred to say these things to you, I'm like, those are losers. That's what I was saying in it, just to clarify. But speaking of streaming, you wanted to talk about Severance. I have not seen the show on a more lighthearted note, but everyone's talking about Severance. Like, what's so good about Severance? Explain it to me. Give me a pitch, please.
So it's interesting because it's directed by Ben Stiller, who also directed Escape from Dunmara, which is a prison escape show with like Paul
Shout out to
Dano
Ben.
and Patricia Arquette, who's also in Severance. The latter is also in Severance. And a lot of people say that Severance is effectively an escape show, which is fascinating. But the premise of the show is you have this very cult-like corporation called Lumen, and employees at Lumen opt in to be severed. So it's a chip in their brain. That means once they enter the office building, they're effectively a different person, a separate consciousness. So it's like the ultimate work-life boundaries, work-life balance, but things don't quite go to plan. And the severed innie versions of the employees start self-actualizing. And they're like, actually, we have demands, we have rights, we have wants. And the show basically like follows the story of like the tension of like the innie lives and the outie lives, as well as a corporation that's managing this like super experimental technology and trying to keep it all contained. And I think the reason why Severance is really good is like, one, it's like the idea you eat with your eyes first. It looks very good. You know, like the cinematography, everything, it's highly stylized, and it's amazing. Secondly, the acting. It's a bit like the way Succession just had everyone on lock. Like the acting in this show is next level. The characters, even though it's like not really happening in our world, it's kind of happening in a parallel world, a bit like ours, it still feels very real. And yeah, I think the themes that it explores are just very relevant to today. You know, everything from identity to corporate culture to like the, you know, hustle and search for success, as well as like the personal trajectories of like trying to find oneself, trying to find love, trying to find connection, you know, in this backdrop of what's actually really happening. Who is this corporation, and why is it weirdly cult-like and religious? And yeah, it's just a really, really fun show, even though it's really dark. Like it's really dark, but it also has moments of like levity and comedy. And it had a extra long finale, which upped the stakes on every level and was just incredible. I do also just want to give a shout out to Jayan Lopez of Black Girl Gamers, who had a Severance themed birthday that went viral on social media. And the actor that plays the iconic Mr. Milchick commented on it. And I saw that she was invited to the finale viewing party.
Oh, amazing. Shout out to her. That's dope. That's dope. I love it when like nerdiness wins out in the world, when you're just like so enamored with like a piece of content and you get rewarded for it. It's interesting because actually, so it's Apple, right? And they were reported to have lost $1 billion every year since they've done their kind of streaming shows. And essentially they're doing these sort of really like high taste, high touch, high production shows, kind of in contrast that to Netflix, where it seems to be they're just spraying the money everywhere and hoping that something sticks. I mean, it's obviously possible for them to do that because I think their recent profits last year was $94 billion. So essentially, it's 1% of their profits going towards this kind of endeavor of promoting and creating these great shows. I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it. If a corporation wants to burn money to create great art and support great artists, go for it. Do you know what I'm saying? I just wish they could do this for like the big screen and cinema, but obviously that's not within their wheelhouse. Because I feel like right now
they bought Coda, that won an Oscar, and that was Apple TV. I think they paid to distribute that.
Oh, okay. Was Coda the Palestinian movie? Or was that something else?
No, it's about like a deaf child.
Okay, cool. Okay, yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, listen, there we go. They've done something that's Oscar worthy. But yeah, shout out to Apple for that. I give great credit.
I think
to
for
that.
them, it's just like about the high production value, and it is expensive to make things with high production value. And
yes, and also think like I think it doesn't, because I was thinking about this, my business hat on. I was like, what is the strategy here? Because if Apple TV is successful, it doesn't mean they're going to sell any more iPhones. You don't need an Apple device to watch any of this stuff. So what are they doing for their ecosystem? I think it's partly just because they want to have Apple as that premium brand. And that's the only play I can think of where like maybe the people who work at Apple are just like, we want to make sure that Apple is thought of as high quality, high taste, high touch, whatever. And this kind of feeds into that basically, right? We can't put slop out there. Whereas Netflix is more comfortable just putting out slop. Like, I'm going to be honest with you, this is going to sound so dark in it, but I've had inside scoop conversations with people who work at some other big streamers, and they told me that like they're figuring out how to use AI to like make shows. Like they told me.
Yeah.
I know I met somebody whose job it. Well, no, but think about this. This is not publicly well known that like they're willing to come out and say, we're actually looking, how do we circumvent the artists? Which is crazy, which is insane.
After the last ride, they've been doing that since the writer's strike.
Yeah, real talk. Okay, cool. That's been this week's Techish. Thank you so much for listening. Leave us your reviews on all the podcast apps. You can now watch us on YouTube and Spotify. So hopefully you're watching this if you're watching this on Spotify. And we will catch you next week at Techish Pod on Instagram and all platforms. Peace.
Bye.